introduce her to us.
All right, we got Miss Jamie here. Jamie Burns has over 13 years of multifamily property management experience. She's currently an assistant, actually not anymore, she'll let you know about it, but she was recently an assistant property manager overseeing a 360 unit asset in Orlando. So for those of you looking in Central Florida, Orlando, she's the one to talk to. She works closely with her leasing and maintenance teams to ensure a positive resident experience. She oversees various day-to-day activities, including monthly rental collections, owner reports, renewal terms, and works diligently to recapture damage charges upon resident move-outs. If you do not pay your rent, she will bring it back. She also has extensive experience with acquisition analysis and is part of her company's due diligence team, while also serving as a mentor for assistant property managers for her current employer. Is that Meredith? Is that what it is? Meredith or something like that?
ZRS Management.
ZRS Management.
Yeah.
All right. So she is also an investor, just like us, and she is, she also on the side likes to enjoy various outdoor activities and running her real estate holding company, TBD Investment Group, with her partner Shane, who is on with us tonight also. All right, so let's rock. So, Joseph.
Okay. All right, great. So we're gonna start, Jamie. Can you start telling us exactly what you do as a property manager?
Okay. So I am part of the Onsite team, because I know that there's different kinds of property management managers. There's the smaller ones who kind of maybe they have like their own office and they manage multiple different properties. I don't have really much experience with that. I've just been that Onsite team from the beginning, quite honestly. So we do everything from dealing with residents' day-to-day issues or requests. We do, obviously leasing. We do turnovers, things like that, renewals, resident retention, things like that as well. We're basically there to represent the owner. We're there to protect their asset, manage it for them, because usually for us, at least, it's like a larger investment group who we're just one of many deals that they have, kind of a thing. So we deal directly to an asset manager, typically, which, for some of these smaller deals, it may just be the owner, but basically, yeah, so we just kind of run the property. We're there for them, watching their asset day in and day out. We report to them, weekly, monthly, we've reports all over the place. But, it's important. It's important to report back to the owner to let them know what's going on. So they don't have to come down there. We always kind of joke around, we haven't seen our asset manager in a while. That's a good thing. That means that we're doing a good job and they trust us, so that's, kind of the nuts and bolts of it, really. We're just kind of the boots on the ground. It's as simple and broad as that is, but we really kind of are, we're
Right.
there,
Can I stop?
Mm-hmm.
I want to back up a little bit, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you from Orlando?
I'm not. No, I'm from Indiana.
Right. When did you move to Orlando?
I have been in Orlando 16 and a half years now. So I didn't even realize until recently how long I've been here. But yeah, so came down to the Sunshine State here, yeah, so I've been doing this most of the time I've been here.
Why Orlando?
I don't know. It wasn't Indiana. It was close enough to the beach. It had all of the draw there of everything. To me, I joke, but even still to this day a little bit, but whenever I first moved down here, I come from a tiny town. And to me, Orlando might as well be New York City, might as well be Manhattan. It's a huge town or city, I guess. But no, I just love the location, the weather, of course.
Have you spent any time in other cities in Florida? Like living?
Not living. No, actually, I have pretty much lived throughout Orlando areas, different sides of the town, quite honestly. But no, this is the area that I've pretty much always lived in as far as that goes.
Cool. Now, when you When you first got into property management, were you with the same company that you're with now?
I actually am. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Why did you decide to go into property management because you liked property management, or did you always know you wanted to be an investor, or what was the reason?
Loaded question. Honestly, I've always been drawn to real estate. I had started off going to college for architectural drafting, so I've always been drawn to that kind of a niche. Um, and I came down here. I obviously didn't do anything like that. I had a degree in sports management. Clearly, I'm doing that now. Um, so I had actually kind of stumbled around when I first got here because I was in my early 20s at the time, kind of going different little jobs and things happening. And I ended up working with a temp agency. And a temp agency placed me at a property. And turned out I was actually pretty decent at it. And I didn't hate it. And so the company that I was temping for was the company that I actually work for now. So they liked me enough that they had invited me and offered me a job at a new property they were taking over. So I was like, okay, why not? So yeah, I literally just kind of landed and stumbled into this, found that I was pretty decent at it. It still kind of gave me, every day's different, dealing with different people all the time. So that's kind of nice too, kind of have like that change up. So yeah, no, it just kind of, it found me.
Cool, cool. Just quick question. I think you quickly touched this point. What aspects do you oversee in terms of, for example, collections, leasing, or maintenance,
Mm-hmm.
capital expenditures, etc.? If you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, all of it. So, if property management with what we do with the company I work with is typically, I would say, I get asked this question quite a bit, like, at what point do you need an on-site presence? I would typically say like about 100 units or more. Anything less than that, you can maybe get away with, if it's like maybe 75 or so, you can maybe do like maybe an on-site maintenance tech. And then everything else you can kind of maybe filter through an office. But being at the larger community scale, we do have an on-site maintenance team, and it depends on how many units that is. There's typically one guy per 100 units or so. So it just kind of depends. So we do oversee the maintenance on staff, on site. Typically offer the 24-hour emergency maintenance as well. As far as turning units goes, that's usually in-house as well, typically for my company. So when somebody moves out, they go in, they paint, carpet, maintenance, service the property and clean it. All of that is scheduled through maintenance, like a maintenance supervisor. But that is a lot of that stuff as far as like the turn of the unit is in-house. We do have vendors, so we do actually have a very close vendor relationship with many different vendors across the aspect, pest control, construction, different things like that as well, with obviously like with the cleaners and everything. So, we just kind of oversee all the whole process, with turning a unit for a new resident. So we do the leasing. We obviously advertise the units as they come available. We typically like to turn a unit within 5 to 7 business days. We do also manage if you're going to rehab a unit at turnover. Obviously that'll take a little bit longer, but some of that stuff, the property I just came from, we were doing that. Some of it was done in-house, some of it was hired out. So it just kind of depends on what the owner prefers. In this specific case, the owner kind of had like their own specific relationship with a vendor to do that. So they were doing it. But yeah, I mean, we kind of oversee the whole thing, everything that happens on a day-to-day basis there, So yeah, leasing, maintenance, all of it.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
All right. I have a question. Just like myself and Nico and probably many other people here, we're looking into invest out of state. I mean, in New York, and someone's here. Nico is here in New York too. We're looking to invest out of state, and I mean, as we all know, boots on the ground team member is critical to be successful in multi-state, multifamily investing in out of state. Is that, do you share the same view? You think it's critical, and what do you say to the potential investors out there?
Yeah, no, absolutely it is. It is, because every market has its own little nuances and stuff like that, especially right now. I mean, this, with the COVID thing, it's just nobody knows what's going on. So everybody's freaking out, so it kind of almost levels the playing field a little bit, but it makes it different. But yeah, no, it's definitely very important to have somebody who is there to, who knows the market a little bit more intimately. Perhaps, obviously you can always visit, and you always should, I think, but it is definitely very, very helpful to have somebody who is there, day in and day out, who, like, even if it's not just the property manager, but your partner or somebody, who's there to kind of check it out and be, have their finger on the pulse of what's happening, in that market that you're looking in.
Great. Yes, thank you. Louis had a question. From property management perspective, do you prefer to renew a lease or deal with a loss to lease, or have a new resident at a higher monthly rent?
That's a good question. With something like that, it just depends on how your turn costs are, how much that is, and what you plan on doing to that unit. I will say, when we were doing, for an example, when we were doing the turns on my property, typically you do want to kind of keep a resident, you kind of do. Obviously you want to have your threshold of your percentage, which is kind of also maybe market driven. So you kind of want to shop your comps to see what they're increasing people. Typically 4 to 8%. In a regular market, that's kind of typical for a renewal. But if you're wanting to turn that unit and upgrade it, well, yeah, you're going to want to kind of gently nudge them to be like, let me move somewhere else. Now, one of the things we were doing during that time is some of these people, we were increasing 10%, to kind of entice them to maybe not necessarily even move out of the property. And that's another thing. If you can transfer them to another unit that maybe already is finished, then you can do that. I mean, we do a ton of that, quite frankly. A lot of people, especially whenever they start hearing or seeing online, hey, you got this renovated unit with quartz countertops, and I've got this Formica stuff. I think I want to go to that. And they're only paying $50 more or $100 more than I'm paying. I want to go there. Great, get out, let me turn your unit, and I'll flip this one for a little bit higher cost as well. So we do that quite a bit. And it always kind of made me laugh whenever I would have some residents at a 10% increase say, no, I'm going to stay. And I'm always like, oh my gosh, you're crazy. But at the same time, that's good, because you're making up for that difference that you would have lost if they had just moved out. Even though you're not turning that unit, you're still getting a 10% rent bump, So there's definitely, ways that you can to do it to where you're still going to make that good increase, whether you keep the rent, the tenant or not in that same unit.
Cool. Thank you. Joe had a question. Do you do any virtual showings, leasings these days?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Yes. So, like with my company, I feel like it actually kind of forced us to kind of get with it a little bit. We still have like weekly, like virtual leasing classes and stuff right now. But yes, obviously with this whole thing, we were doing a lot of virtual leasing. So, we were doing some kind of like in-house virtual tours of the units themselves. So, somebody would go in and do like a little camera, view it around, so that we could post on our website a virtual tour, like a 3D tour there. And then on top of that, we would invite them to also do a self-guided tour as well. So we kind of gave them the option of, if you like what you see through the virtual tour, lease, that's great. We're there to answer any questions, because even though our office doors were locked, we were still there every day, to answer emails and phone calls and things like that. And honestly, we have been so busy. Like the market is, I mean, obviously prices kind of dropped a little bit, which created that urgency, but people are moving. Pandemic, who cares? They're moving, I'm telling you. So, you know, but we were offering the virtual tours through our website, through maybe emailing them. If somebody needed a little more, we would maybe run out to that unit and take photos for them and things like that. Just go above and beyond, a little extra mile, you know, for them. And then, like I said, with the self-guided tours, we would also set that up to where we would verify their IDs through a online system, because we always, you know, verify IDs whenever you tour somebody. So we still did that virtually. And then they would call us and say, okay, I'm going to come at 2 o'clock. Okay, great. We will, once we verified their ID, we would email them a map of the community, what unit it was. We would go unlock it.
Mm-hmm.
They would come and take a look at it, take their time, and then we either had them make sure they called us back, or we would call them back and just say, hey, how'd you like the unit? So it kind of forced like an extra follow-up. So, I mean, like I said, it's kind of the wave of the future almost for us, I feel like. Obviously, you still got those people who want to come and take a look. You know, slowly our offices just this week are starting to open up, like per appointment only kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so yes, between the virtual tours and self-guided tours, we're still leasing quite a bit.
So it's virtual tour like live,
No,
or
it's like a
is it video?
pre-recorded like
Oh, I see.
video.
Yeah, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay. Cool, cool. All
yeah.
right. Okay. I had another question here. So how is the rental market, especially in Orlando, because you're from there, rental market during the COVID? Have you seen a decrease or increase in leases during this time?
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, like I was just kind of saying, it's increased. It's increased, and it's just crazy because we were kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, but sometimes we were kind of excited in the beginning when we shut the doors. We're like, oh, now we can relax. We can catch up on some of this paperwork we got to do. You know, we can kind of calm down without, because honestly, when you're there and you don't think about it, like you do, there's a lot of people always coming in, whether it's like new prospects or current residents for something, air filter, it doesn't matter, you know, you're constantly being interrupted, you know, so you got to be multitasking quite a bit, honestly, if you're in the office. But so we were kind of excited about that, and next thing you know, the phones are ringing off the hook non-stop, back to back to back. And then also our online leads, we have, you know, obviously a CRM that we would use as well. So online leads are coming in, and it's just it was a huge uptick, quite honestly. And obviously there for a little while, because it just kind of depended on our occupancy and how that was trending. And obviously with the comps in the area, you know, our pricing kind of fluctuated. Our pricing that we use changes daily. It's a system that a lot of apartment communities, at least here that I know of, use. So it's like an automated like pricing system that will manually adjust your rent, you know, to offer for that day.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's daily pricing. So it basically once a week, the property manager has a call with the regional manager and a representative from the company who, you know, there's several different companies to offer this, but you input the competitors and what their pricing is for the week, and based off of your current vacancy, your projected leases expiring, and projected, you know, pending, you know, it could be possible, you know, vacancies as well. It takes that into account and it adjusts, but it kind of keeps you kind of in line. So you're not like asking an astronomical price that you're not going to get, thinking that, oh, well, I got this. You know, you're kind of keeping in line with everybody. So it kind of levels that playing field, but it kind of keeps everybody right there, you know, kind of realistic. But, you know, so during this time, our pricing all around us, we're starting to drop, you know, but there towards the end, before we kind of had left that property, you know, recently, it was kind of trending back up again. You know, so yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways you can kind of play that, but it has been, it's been a rental market right now. Like it's
Great, great. I
Yeah.
heard I heard a lot of people are moving into Florida from New York,
Oh, yeah.
California. You know,
Yeah, right.
after this pandemic, it's you know what, Florida is ready to go.
Yeah, honestly, yes, we do. We get a lot of out of state people. And, one of the new things we have to think about is we have to remind these people, hey, by the way, when you come into Florida, you may have to have like a note saying that you're coming here to move for a job or whatever it is, because they are stopping people at the border and telling them you got to quarantine for 14 days and the whole thing. So that's changed a little bit. But yeah, we're still getting a lot of out of state prospects.
Okay, I have more practical questions, so to say. All right, what will be the average cost? I think it's about operating cost per unit. Let's say for about 100 plus units, Orlando, about Sear area.
Mhm.
Um, to compare with out of state, what would you say?
Oh, you said like a C area?
Like a C-class building, more than 100 units, 100 plus units, operating expenses per unit per year, per se.
You're putting me on a spot. I don't know. I haven't looked at that in a while, just because I haven't been on an actual property myself
I understand. I
recently.
understand.
I
But
think, I think the question, Joe, are you asking about the cost per unit, like 100 grand for a two-bedroom or something? Is that what you're asking?
No, more specifically, the cost to operate. Like for instance, in Kansas City, the average cost to operate a C-class property is around $3,500 a door per year.
okay.
So I was
So,
curious to see the comparison to Florida.
Gotcha.
yes, I know what you're saying, and you know what? I don't know off the top of my head, and I apologize. I can definitely find out. I can definitely find out for you.
Yep, we'll find out and let you know, Joe, later.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but it's a good question because based off on that, that's we use it for value the buildings and etc.
In Tampa, though, it's a giant variety of cost, especially specifically with insurance. You can go from 350 a unit to 800 a unit, per year, and which is a huge difference, and depends on flood zones and wind insurance and stuff like that. So I don't know, particularly if it can be narrowed down that simply, but if I guess we could look into it.
Right, right. And does anybody has any idea about Florida market operating expenses? As far as my research goes, let's say Knoxville, Tennessee, they also have about 3,500 per unit per year, like a rule of thumb operating cost. So 3,500 to 4,000 is somewhere there.
Yeah, I bet you CoStar or something can provide that.
Right, right. So we'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
Okay. We have another question from James. Are you still able to get that higher rent increase percentage during this pandemic? I'm hearing people say you should be underwriting with little to none increase for a couple of years. What do you think?
Yeah. So I'm basing my answer to that question off of the fact that right now with our renewals, kind of the last few months, whenever we've been sending out renewal offers, we initially started at like 1 to 3% increase, quickly went down to 1%, and then the last few months, for like July and August renewals, we were sending out at 0% increase. Honestly, yeah, we were, because at that point it was more about keeping the residents. Our owners that we were working for at the time had decided to stop, with the upgrades. So at that point, we were just gonna, take it as is and avoid that turn cost. Yeah.
Okay. Does any tenant ask you to actually reduce the rent?
Yes. Oh yeah.
They did?
What's funny is, like, not normally, but lately, yes. Which, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, in the office we were like, yeah, right. Like, come on, but best we could offer them is a 0% increase, honestly. But we weren't lowering people's rents.
Okay, and they still just stayed.
Of course they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I have a question,
Mhm.
Jamie. So, like, now people, you said you had to lower rents a little bit. Is that what you had to do
For new leases.
for new leases?
For
Okay.
new leases are asking. Mhm.
I just have like a quick yes or no, I guess. before this question. So with that system that you have, is there like a rent? Can you input like a floor and a ceiling for that? Where that I guess it's that system that can control the rent daily. Can you put in a floor?
Yeah, I think you definitely can. You know that you don't want to, but and that's there's usually like I said, it's a weekly call anyway with the representative from that company, and so they can take a look at your trends and what day of the week you're releasing, how many leases you had, what your projections are for a 2-bedroom vacancy, you know, trend and things like that. You know, so all of that plus with the comps as well, they'll maybe say, okay, I think you're doing good there. You might be able to bump up an extra 15. I'll be honest, like anything that I was seeing, the max difference would be like maybe 15, $20.
Okay.
You know, nothing too major.
Now, and you said that people are trying to rent, you know, that's really cool. And I like that. But is there a different trend in what they're trying to rent? Meaning, like, are you finding, you know, all the 1-bedrooms are all locked up now? Or like maybe people are bunking up together and they're getting like roommates with a 2-bedroom or something? Or do you not notice anything?
We really weren't seeing any sort of like changes as far as that goes. The property that I was at was strictly 1 and 2 bedrooms. There were 6 different floor plans, 3 1-bedrooms, 3 2-bedrooms, you know, various sizes. So we really weren't seeing a particular trend or people like downsizing and pairing up with roommates and stuff per se out of the normal. So I guess that's kind of a good thing.
Okay, last question then. So you had some, it was a little bit, was it difficult to collect rent at the end of, let's say, May?
It took, you know what, I have to say, in my mind, I felt like it took longer to collect more rent from May versus April. But whenever I was looking at the reports, it actually wasn't. It was about on trend. You know, because that was my job, I was the rent collector, and right now,
no.
right, you know, so, but like, here's the thing is that we had a template set out. We had a couple different things, which was like, as far as that goes right now, we offered residents, if they reached out to us and said, hey guys, I don't know when I can pay my rent, or I can pay in full, but not until the 7th or the 10th or something like that, which for us, it's typically 1st through the 3rd. You know, we would send out an email back to them, a response back to them, and kind of ask for some detailed information of, okay, did you lose your job? Are you on furlough? Did you file for unemployment? Did you ask for government assistance? And we also would include a couple of links and attach like a list of charities and stuff. So we kind of came up to help provide that to the residents so they didn't feel like they were going through it alone. And we were very accommodating. And we made that well known, you know, to the residents as far as that goes. So a lot of people actually did reach out, which was pretty cool, you know, especially with people, you know, with pride and things like that. There were a few people that it's the end of April and I've not heard from you. I've sent emails, you know, you can't send a 3-day notice. You can't file eviction, obviously. You got to be careful about what you say and how you word it to them, especially right now, because you know, we were we were alerted to a few law firms who were actually reaching out to residents at different, not my property or anything that I know personally, but we were alerted to this happening, that they were reaching out to residents and asking them, did you get a 3-day notice? If not, can you get one? And it's mind blowing that this is out there, but basically they were trying to trap and get a lawsuit. You know, so you just really have to know your legal grounds for things like that. And even
shady lawyers, huh?
Yeah, you know, it's like, come on, like and you know what's funny is that I just don't think that way. I'm just not that person, which most of us aren't. And so I have had a few, and I'm not saying that they did get baited by this, but I had some residents like, oh, in order for me to get assistance, I need to show this, you know, and it's like, I can give you a copy of your ledger. That's all I can give you. I'm not going to give you a legal document, saying you must pay by this date, kind of a thing. So, but like I said, a lot of people did reach out, and just kind of, it's about communication during times like this, especially, is to constantly literally reach out, make note of it, what's going on, when can you pay. We did a lot of payment plans, which is something, it's based on the owners, and how they want to set that up, and like when the cutoff date for that is. But we did quite a few payment plans, and we did send those out. They did have to sign them, but we were working with everybody. You pay $250 a week, great, pay it off, kind of a thing. So yeah.
Okay, great. I have a question. Basically, what minimum qualifications do you have for new tenants? I think it's about screening process. What kind of screening process is there?
Well, what we do, typically everybody will use like a third party credit company to screen the applicants. So we do a credit and background check. We don't have like a minimum credit score, but obviously what we have to kind of tell people is, no evictions, no collections. If there is collections, how many, things like that could determine maybe an approval, but with an additional deposit. So typically what we ask for is they fill out the application, we run their credit background, verify the proof of income. They would have to gross 3 times the monthly rent, and that's typically combined household income. We would offer up maybe like a guarantor or co-signer option if they did not gross 3 times the monthly rent on their own. Then we could have somebody do that, and they would have to gross 4 times the monthly rent to be a guarantor, but we would run their background as well.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Let's see. I have another questions here. How do you get to talk to the actual owners, or who do you deal with when you have orders? Is that not your company boss, but do you actually have a chance to talk to the owners of the building?
Typically, we have the asset managers who comes to site. The way that our deals typically work is, we're a third party fee managed company. So we don't own any of our own properties. So what that means is obviously you're going to have like your investors, and then they could either have their own asset manager within their primary investment company, or they could have a partner, who there's an equity investor and then another, partner as well. They could act as an asset manager as well. So, typically that's kind of how this last property is it's a company out of California that's kind of made its move to the Central Florida market. So, so they're the asset managers, but also the owner's representative. And then they also report to their equity partner as well. So it's kind of like a trickle down thing. But we typically just deal with the asset manager for that company. Mm-hmm.
Cool. I don't know if you could tell this, how much, like what percentage is your fee of the rent collected usually?
Typically it kind of depends on your relationship with the owners and how many properties maybe you'll have with them. Typically it's 3% for like these larger properties. I know that that's negotiable. And I think from what I understand is because this particular client had purchased a few different properties, we kind of negotiate down to like 2.5%. So
2.5%?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of low than I expected.
It is. Here's the thing: it is, but we're collecting roughly $450,000, $500,000 per month.
Wow.
So it just kind of,
Right.
Yes, it's low. It sounds fantastic, but whatever you think about what your your gross potential rent is and stuff like that,
Cool.
It can add up pretty quick.
Okay. Another question. It's about eviction. So Louis said, why no evictions? My experience, I recently had to rent one of my units and the person had an eviction. I decided to go through, and right now that person even created a garden on my property. she's taking amazing care of the unit.
Uh-huh. It's just kind of, I mean, I guess you can kind of set your own guidelines on what you will and will not take and tolerate, or as far as that goes. It's just kind of been our company policy. It's written into our application as well, that if you do have a prior eviction, typically that's a no-go. And there's really no statute on that as far as how far back that goes. If it's like a collection, you know, if you owe another community, typically that's a no-go unless you have paid it off and you have proof that you paid it off. It's really just kind of about protecting, you know, protecting yourself. So, I mean, like if you have, like if you're an individual owner and like you have your own rental property, you have more leeway. But for a third party, you know, property management thing, you're there to protect the owner's asset, you know, so you want to make sure that you're doing all that you can, you know, as far as that goes. So just kind of a preference, I guess.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
How many, Jamie, how many people manage that? It's 360 units. Is that what it was? 340, 360?
Yeah, so this one was 360 units. There were 3.5 office staff. So a property manager, assistant manager, leasing consultant, and then we kind of had like a part-time leasing consultant as well. We had 4 maintenance as well. So we had like the maintenance supervisor. We actually had like a turn guy who was kind of doing basically the turns, and then the property was 30 years old. So we had a lot of ACs, a lot of leaks. We had the poly. Please, if you're researching a property, if you see poly pipes, beware. Beware, because those things are so old, they don't do them anymore, and they will leak constantly. So just beware as far as that goes.
Definitely good advice. Was there any on-site managers?
Was there any what was it?
Did you have any on-site management there?
Yeah, we were on site. So we had a leasing office in the clubhouse, and all of us were there. You know, we were open 6 days a week. Maintenance every day as well. Except for, you know, they were on call. Usually one guy would be on call for any emergencies for the week, who would come out after hours if it was like an AC over a certain temperature or a leak or anything like that.
And who deals with maintenance? If somebody calls you, mm-hmm. or do they call the maintenance guy directly? We
have typically, you know, properties of this size, you will have like an answering service, or even like the smaller ones too, I guess. You know, you can have like a third party, like an answering service, and then they can like dial a certain number to reach after hours emergency maintenance. Otherwise, if it's during business hours and somebody, you know, has something like their microwave is not working or something like that, they just call the office or submit like online work orders, and then our guys get those and process them here.
Cool. All right, so you got it, Joseph?
Oh, I just wanted to know, what would be the smallest property that you have managed, and the biggest?
Well, my very first property was 532 units. So that was my introduction to leasing and everything right there. And I was actually at that property for like 8.5 years, which is very rare, like in this business, actually, as far as like property management goes. Usually they like to kind of move people around, but so I was there for about 8.5 years. The smallest property was the one I just came from, 360 units. I guess I can kind of go ahead and speak about like the whole change here. I was kind of telling Nico about that had happened was, you know, I had mentioned we have like an equity partner, and then our asset managers that we reported to. The equity partner had purchased a property management company themselves, which as investors, we all get why, you know. So they purchased their own property management company and decided to give us 30 days notice on May 1st that they were bringing in their own property management as of June 1st. So we don't blame them for that. You know, so now I am going to be going to a new property. I'm super excited about it. It's a brand new build. Clubhouse isn't even ready yet, but this will be my smallest property at 288 units. So I'm going to be going there I don't even know, honestly, like maybe next week. I don't even know. I'm just kind of helping out at other properties now, kind of help training other assistants and, just kind of help doing something. They're keeping me busy until that clubhouse is ready to kind of rock and roll, and we're going to pre-lease and go from there.
Great, great. Congratulations on moving on to a new building and journey.
I know, I'm super excited. This property was 30 years old. This one's doesn't even have building 1 done. So I'm super excited.
Cool, cool. I see a last question here. What software do you incorporate into your business?
Yeah, there's quite a few out there. And again, I'll be honest, I kind of know some of the larger ones. The one that we use is called RealPage, Onsite. They do everything as far as that goes. There's also Yardi is another one that people use, MRI. There's all kinds of different ones that people use. I know that people use CoStar as well for different, maybe smaller properties, or I'm not sure. It just kind of depends on how many different properties they got under their belt or units as far as that goes. But we use Onsite. RealPage is who we use, and they do our screening. They do everything.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. I have one last question for you. What, if any, do you have as one habit that you think it makes your life successful?
I don't know. I would almost have to say, which is funny to think of my younger self. I think maybe kind of being more outgoing and just talking to people, just networking and getting to know other people, just kind of feeding off their energy, which is awesome. Like you guys right now, like that's super inspiring and it's great to kind of like, have that common bond there. But yeah, I would just have to say, just kind of like being open to talking to people, learning, I'm like, all of a sudden now I love reading, I didn't like that in school, that's for sure. But, like I like reading now and educating myself and, and things like that. And then just sharing that knowledge, just talking to people.
Great, great. I think that's one of the things that we should be equipped with. I'm seeing another question, so I will just read that to you. Bobby's, how would you recommend an out-of-state owner to manage their property under 75 units?
That is something you would need to kind of maybe be in the, like, visit the market, talk to different property managers, property management companies, because there are some, it just depends. Like, do you want to self-manage? It's not impossible, but you will need at least maintenance or somebody there to kind of have eyes on the property for you throughout the week, honestly. Or if you find a good property manager, quite frankly, who is there to take a look at the property, run out if you have any questions, or is there to alert you of anything that happens, over the weekend and things like that. So it's just really kind of about, if you're not in that market, to kind of develop some sort of, boots on the ground in that market for you.
Right, right. So there will be some property managed companies who are willing to go for smaller buildings and.
Yeah, exactly. There are some. I mean, I know that the broker that me and Shane use, and I know Nico has met her as well. She has a brokerage side that she works with investors. She also, her husband runs the property management side. She's like me, started off in this business like how I am now. And she has a property management side to where that's what they do. They manage, like, I think 1,000 units, but it's from single families, duplexes, quads, 12 units, 35 units. There are those companies out there who specialize in like the smaller properties.
Yeah. I recently had a conversation with another huge property management team down there. And, and as to your point earlier, Jamie, they were saying, like, if you present it to them, Bobby, saying like, well, I'm going to buy this 75, but we're also going to be working with you in the future. Then the fee is going to be negotiable. So even was it Kim? Kim was like, you know what, if you're going to be getting this property, we'll do 6%, And I said, awesome. When it's the standard is like 8%, 8 to 10% or whatever. And then like the other guy that I was talking to, they typically only manage over 200, the property size is over 200 units. And he said, you know what, if you're going to look at this 66 unit, I know that you're going to be on board for the other one. So we'll still give you that 4% for the 66 unit, but just keep us on for the next one as well. So you really want to just keep talking to people and build like a good relationship with them. And honestly, so what I did was I sent gifts to people, you know. So like I sent this guy a gift, and now every time I ask him a question, bang, he gets back to me right away, and he sends me a CoStar report, and I don't have access to that. So as Jimmy's saying, you know, you just want to keep talking to people, and that's beneficial. If you can be outgoing and be that person who can go out there and just put yourself out there and talk to people. Who cares if you look dumb? Who cares if you know, you're only going to sound dumb for a certain period of time before you start catching on, and then, you know, then you'll be a lot better. So I put myself in really uncomfortable situations to grow.
Great. Yeah, I agree. Nico. Jamie, thank you very much. If any of us have a question, can we reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I can kind of maybe put something there in the chat box there with my contact information. So yeah, I mean, if anybody has any questions whatsoever, whether it doesn't matter about this market or next, or you know, Joe, I can get back to you as far as like what the, you know, operating cost is. And I'm so sorry that I didn't have that answer right away, you know, so I can definitely be available. I'm open, you know, text, email, either way I'm there.
I know a few people are interested in Florida land markets here, one of the attendees. So please reach out to her. She'd be open to any questions, any market questions. And she put her email address there, so you guys could take it down. And you don't have any?
I'll download that chat box and I'll send it to everybody in the email.
Great. So you will have it. Again, reach out to her. Very knowledgeable. You'll get all the answers. All right. Thank you very much, Jamie, for
thank you guys.
And
Thank you.
giving us your experience. Okay. Lastly, everyone, we have announcement for next topic and next guest. Nico, you wanna announce that for him?
Yeah. So 2 weeks from now, is it July 1st? Yeah, Wednesday, July 1st. We're gonna have Cody Laughlin on. He's a GP what is he? He's the
LP.
Oh, right. So he's a principal. He owns Blue Oak Capital, and he is really experienced and well versed on the LP side. He's got almost 2,000 doors on the LP side, and he's also a GP. So he's the kind of guy that we're going to talk to get excellent advice for, you know, what it is to be an LP, why you should be an LP, or if you don't think it's for you, it's not for you. But he does both. So he's got that perspective from both sides, which I think is very interesting. And he's going to share with us that most people do both. You know, it's not just a one thing. You know, all the biggest GPs, they're also on the LP side, and there are reasons for it. So I think it's a very important topic to discuss as well.
All right, we're excited to have him. Thank you very much again, Jamie, and thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, you guys too. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.